This episode of the Sloopcast brought to you by the Ozone Radio Network. That's right, the Ozone Radio Network. Not only are we fans of the Ozone Radio Network, we are members. Hair Club for Men jokes, because, you know, relevant. Anyway, you can hear many great shows on the Ozone Radio Network. You can read some of the best Buckeye writing at theozone.net. All of this and more can be found at theozone.net. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are we doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well here, Jared. How about you?
Doing okay. We found a show. It took some time. It took some effort. But we found a show.
A show.
A show. Yeah, I think a pretty good show. Last week we entered the wasteland. We are now in the terrible point in the football calendar in between the NFL draft and the fall camps. We have a process. Like, during the season, recording the podcast is actually kind of easy. You watch a football game, you turn on the podcast machine, the magical podcast machine here, and you talk about the football game that you just watched. Voila, a podcast. And you just try and be a little bit entertaining along the way. This is where Kyle and I earn the money that we don't make. This is the real magic here, is finding a show in the first week of May. And
then continuing that through the rest of May into June.
We don't need to we don't need to bog down with stuff like that. All right. Like I said, we found a show. Last Sunday, which is when we recorded the previous episode, in a day before we actually released that episode, is actually delivering to us some of the best news. So forgive us for this news being 8 days old, but hey, what are we going to do? Not talk about two recruitments in the middle of May? Of course not. News number one, we talked about on last week's episode the possibility, maybe even the likelihood, that Garrett Wilson would be committing to Ohio State on Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, which I then realized was actually 9 o'clock because he lives in Texas. So I was like sitting there doing the refresh thing on Twitter at 8 o'clock, like, come on.
For now.
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming to Ohio.
Or is
getting back in on that Eastern time zone action.
Or as he said in his tweet here, pulling the whole LeBron thing, quote, "I'm coming home."
Yeah, he absolutely did. We talked about this, I think, a couple times. He lives in Texas, but he's from Central Ohio. If you're like, well, how does Ohio State get one of the best players in the entire state of Texas, who lives in Austin, Texas, away from the Longhorns? It was a little bit more as far as where is home, a little bit more on an even playing field than it seemed at first glance. Like I said, he is the 5th best wide receiver in the entire country. He is a 5-star, and we'll see how these things shuffle out, because once again, very early in the process, you don't necessarily, when it comes time for fall and come time for National Signing Day, have so many 5-stars at one position. So this is either an incredibly deep class at the wide receiver position this year in the 2019 class, or we're going to see some of that whittle down a bit. Regardless, his score, we don't necessarily talk much about the score. Some people ask, where did the stars come from? The stars are based on a composite score from 24/7 Sports, and that score is a .9861, which is damn good.
Definitely damn good. And if you just want to do just 24/7 just themselves, they have him as the 8th best, not just the position, but 8th best nationally as well. So 24/7, think more highly of him than the national composite together. So take that for however you want, but
And I do legitimately think that 24/7 Sports. Okay, so let me back up here. The composite ranking is a composite. See how that works. Between ESPN, Rivals, and 24/7 Sports. Is that right? Or is it Scout? Does Scout also get a say in that?
I believe so.
I'm not 100% sure. But basically, it's a composite between 3, maybe 4 different recruiting services, and you put all of that into one. So whenever we talk about the 24/7 Sports composite ranking, that's what we're talking about. Now, 24/7 Sports has their own independent rankings, so sometimes you'll hear me say, the 24/7 Sports proper rating. They like Garrett Wilson a lot more, apparently, than everybody else. As Kyle said, national rank overall is 8. Best player from the state of Texas and second best wide receiver in the entire country, according to the 24/7 Sports proper. He's 29th overall, 5th wide receiver, 4th player out of Texas, according to the composite.
Definitely a very, very special player. Watch any of his highlight videos, and you get to see that his hands and the ball are just like glue. When that ball comes to him, he catches that more often than not. He's very comfortable with the ball in his hand. Definitely a very, very special player, and very excited to see him come play with the Scarlet and Gray come 2019.
And I hear he's a damn good corner, too. According to someone, sorry, I don't remember who, he also played corner in the Texas State Championship game and shut down who was one of the other best wide receivers in the country on the other side of the field, whatever that's worth to you. Now, while we were waiting and while I was doing, not recording the podcast, but doing the editing of the podcast, we got another surprise. So we were sitting around waiting for Garrett Wilson, and boom, Ohio State gets another commitment from 4-star linebacker Cade Stover. If Cade Stover's name sounds at all familiar to you, he was previewed by us, I guess what's been a couple months back at this point, of the top kids from the state of Ohio.
And I loved his video here. He's just an old good country boy out there doing baling hay, and
his recruitment video was
very Ohio-esque,
very Big Ten.
Yes,
it was a Big Ten commitment video for sure. He is the number 4 player overall. Well, the number 4 player overall in the state of Ohio. So number 4 player from the state of Ohio, 130 nationally, and number 8 nationally among outside linebackers.
Good stuff. Yeah. But I just can't get over that video that he posted. I think a lot of people love that. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Yeah, we'll do another retweet of it for today, sometime on Sunday. So it'll be there.
He's very athletic. You look at the size of him. He's 6'4", 225. Pretty built linebacker, and he runs a 4.65.
It was high school 40 times or nonsense. Yeah.
But still, you look at someone who can run under a 4.7. Yes, high school times. Yes, but a linebacker that big, being able to run that relative good speed, that definitely fits the mold of what
high school 40 times. They might as well be fairy tales. Once upon a time ago, in a land far away.
Jared, that was a few days ago.
Well, whatever. I didn't record a podcast on that day. Shut up. High school 40 times are nonsense. Okay, let me just say this: the amount of kids who apparently get a lot slower from high school to the NFL Combine is amazing. You'd think that 4 or so years in a, prominent college football program might make you a tad faster, but no. Apparently, college football makes you slower. If we're just going by high school 40 times to the NFL Combine 40 times. High school 40 times are nonsense. Hilarious nonsense. I take zero stock in them. All right, so since we're talking kids from the state of Ohio, Zeke Correll includes Ohio State in his top 4, along with Notre Dame, Stanford, Clemson. Oh, yeah, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Clemson, and then, of course, Ohio State.
This is one of the interesting ones that we've talked about a few months ago with one of our favorite assistant coaches leaving. How well is Ohio State going to do in the Cincinnati area? Well, about to find out here with Zeke, as he lives in the Cincinnati area, and the latest crystal balls has him favoring Notre Dame. It's been starting to trend that way the past few weeks here, more so just recently. But yeah, this is one that I think Ohio State desperately really needs to try to keep on the team here. When I saw that Clemson was in his top 4, I'm like, oh boy, here we go again.
Yeah, Clemson's trying to get that Cincinnati pipeline going. Zeke Correll, offensive guard, 6'4", 270. As Kyle said, the crystal ball is favoring Notre Dame, currently 60-40, which is close enough to even with 15 predictions in. But like Kyle also said, the trend is favoring Notre Dame pretty heavily at this point. Ohio State was considered a pretty heavy favorite just as recently as April, but like I said, the trend is eking Notre Dame's side. Now, the good news is if you're an Ohio State fan, which I assume you're an Ohio State fan, the good news here is that Zeke Correll has not made public any sort of commitment timetable, any sort of commitment date, not even anything as generic as before his senior season or after his senior season. Nothing like that. So the timetable is completely wide open. We have no idea what's happening in that realm. So there's potentially time to maybe right this ship a little bit.
So speaking of, as we're continuing talking about Ohio kids, let's kind of look over the top 10 currently for that state of Ohio. So far of these top 10, only 4 hard commits. We've mentioned already Cade Stover, the 4th best right now in the state of Ohio. Noah Potter, and Ryan Jacoby already committed to Ohio, or given their hard commits to Ohio State.
Jacoby.
Would I say Jacoby?
Well, let's just move forward.
Ryan Jacoby. And the other one who's already given his hard commit is Nolan Romier, who's already been committed for like almost a year to Michigan. So that leaves 6 still that haven't given their hard commits to a school yet. So just kind of look at these other 6 and see where the crystal ball is going here. So probably the crowning jewel for the state of Ohio and possibly for Ohio State, defensive end Zach Harrison from Lewis Center, Ohio.
Which, if people do not know, is essentially Columbus, Central Ohio.
He is currently, I think the last I saw was the 3rd or 4th best prospect nationally, not just the state of Ohio, just nationally, 3rd or 4th best. He still has Ohio State as a big favorite here. You look at the crystal ball as of this weekend, 12 predictions, every single one of them going to Ohio State. So still good. Still a lot of good news to try to land Zach Harrison. Definitely keep our eyes out if we hear anything in the future.
So I looked it up while you were talking. Here's the current numbers on Zach Harrison. Number 1 player from the state of Ohio. Number 2 weak side defensive end in the entire country, which kind of sucks for him because he's the number 3 overall player in the country. This is one of the most highly rated players out of the state of Ohio in a very long time. His composite, he's a 5-star, if that's not already obvious. His composite score, Kyle, is a .9979.
A big guy, 6'6", 240 at 16 years old. If that wants to make you feel any better.
No. 12 crystal ball predictions, all to Ohio State. And I believe he just got an invite to Nike's national opening. So there's that for Zach Harrison.
Next up here, Going back to Cincinnati here, Juwan Briggs, the defensive tackle from Walnut Hills, the second best in the state of Ohio right now. And last we checked, Notre Dame has been running away with it with the crystal ball so far, gaining 75% of the crystal ball predictions so far. And Ohio State, the other 25%.
Only 8 predictions.
It's still quite a few, but yeah, not as many as some other ones here that we've seen, but it's still a little concern here. Defensive tackles is you can never have too many offensive and defensive linemen here. So we'll see as the coming weeks and months of this recruiting trail go on.
Yeah, it's not super promising in that a lot of Ohio State media guys whose names are also picking Notre Dame at this point, but no real indication on a commitment date yet. So we no need for concern there. Player number 3 and player number 4 from the state of Ohio, we already mentioned. Nolan Rumner committed to Michigan. Cade Stover just commits to Ohio State. Player number 5 from the state of Ohio is Zeke Correll, who we already talked about. And player number 6 from the state of Ohio, Rodis Johnson from Columbus, Ohio, more specifically St. Francis de Sales.
Here's another defensive tackle from the state of Ohio here. And again, favoring Notre Dame on this one. Not many predictions, 6 here, but all going with Notre Dame here. 14th best defensive tackle nationally, 223rd nationally.
Yeah, and from my understanding, I don't think Ohio State's even pursuing him I don't know why. I could pretend like I know why. I don't know why, but I don't even think there's an Ohio State relationship there at this time.
The only relationship is that they offered him.
They did offer him, but I don't think the recruitment is active at this point, is what I'm trying to say.
Correct, yes.
Noah Potter, we just mentioned, committed to Ohio State. Ryan Jacoby, who we just mentioned, committed to Ohio State. The 9th best player from the state of Ohio is Stephen Fouchette, I think is how I'm going to try to pronounce that name. He is another defensive tackle. He is from Lakota West, which is West Chester, Ohio.
And again, another defensive tackle here from the state of Ohio. Heavily defensive tackle in this year for the state of Ohio. More predictions for this one, 10 of them all favoring Penn State with this one.
And once again, maybe it's just an issue with defensive tackles. I'm going to continue to act like I don't know. And again, there's really not even an active recruitment there with Ohio State. Last up, rounding the top 10 is Tommy Eichenberg, is how I think I'm going to pronounce that last name. And he is an inside linebacker from St. Ignatius, which, if you don't know, is in Cleveland, Ohio.
And again, this one, barely any predictions, so take that with a grain of salt here. All going to Notre Dame here. I had to check to make sure, but yeah, Ohio State did give him an offer here. 13th best inside linebacker nationally, number 367.
The deeper you look into recruiting, the more you realize how little an offer actually means. Once again, there's really not even an active relationship between Tommy Eichenberg and Ohio State at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of this is because of the state of Ohio doesn't really do too much in terms of practices and all that for football. But you see here, as we got lower here, in just even the top 10, the 10th best player in the state of Ohio currently is ranked 367 nationally. Does that say a lot about the talent in Ohio for
the talent? The talent in Ohio is very top heavy, which is not abnormal for Ohio State. There's typically a few really elite players, another handful of 4-star guys, and then a bunch of people to go fill out all of the MAC schools and Kentucky and in Michigan and Michigan State for everybody else. But so yeah, that's not abnormal. This is not an abnormal class for the state of Ohio. And it's also not abnormal to see players come on late from the state of Ohio. Ohio has no spring football. Ohio has very, very restrictive practice rules, and these two things, among other things, including the practice rules that prevent players from attending like national, or not attending. They can attend, but they can't like actually suit up and practice or participate in some of these national recruiting events. And it really hurts not only the development of Ohio players, but it also really hurts the ability for Ohio players to be seen by recruiting services, by schools who could potentially be offering. Ohio has very poor, very restrictive, very detrimental rules that are getting in the way of player development and getting in the way of some of these players getting noticed. But I think that's another topic for another show.
So with that, we look at the current standings in the, wait for it, early recruiting cycle. Ohio State has moved up to the 8th spot for this class with 9 recruits.
Yeah, they got a real nice boost. They got a really nice boost when Garrett Wilson signed on. He is the first 5-star of the class. So we talk a lot about recruiting on this show, and you still hear people every once in a while sort of poo-poo the importance of recruiting and or the significance of following recruiting and all of that. So I wanted to take a moment here because we've now graduated all of, or they've at least moved on, everyone from the 2013 recruiting class. 2013, we just said goodbye to the last of the 2013 players. So now is a good time to stop and take a look at this class.
And what a class it certainly was here. Let's cover the two what were the crowning jewels for this class, the 2 5-stars. Safety Von Bell and wide receiver Jalen Marshall.
Yeah, Von Bell certainly doing very well for himself at the Saints. It goes without saying that a lot of these players, a lot of these players are national champions. A lot of these players participated in the national championship game. And when I say participated, I mean, contributed. Von Bell certainly was a starting safety on that team. And like I said, is currently having a great career with the New Orleans Saints down there with the rest of the Ohio State players.
Don't you mean the New Orleans Buckeyes?
It certainly feels that way.
I believe there's 6 or 7 now with JT on the
practice squad.
Or the practice squad. Well, he did get a contract, but he'll only get that if he makes the final roster, though. But
and I'm pulling for him, as
well as the majority of Buckeye Nation.
Yeah, I mean, don't bet your house on it, but
there's a decent chance. I'm not saying a great chance. There's a decent chance because of their current quarterback situation. There isn't anybody really there to back up Drew Brees. And look and think about that. Drew Brees, who had many records for the Big Ten, and then you add in JT, who broke a lot of those records, all on the same team. Just saying.
You can just say all you want. Jalen Marshall was a big time contributor for Ohio State in his time here. I believe he's still with the Jets. Is that right? We don't need to take time to look it up. But an incredibly talented player. I wish maybe he had stayed a year longer at Ohio State, but that's what was not a possibility for him, unfortunately. Like I said, I think it would have helped out a lot had he stayed another year at Ohio State, but certainly a contributing member to the national title.
Yeah, I believe he's still with the Jets still. Moving on here to a long list of 4 stars here. We'll go in order of how they were rated. Number 3, a guy from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, named Joey Bosa.
I think that one worked out
pretty good.
I think that one worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Next, Eli Apple, certainly a very important member of the national championship team. Going through some personal struggles, I think, with the Giants right now, but the talent's not lacking by any means. I hope that he can figure all of that out. But certainly a legend in Columbus. Next is Mike Mitchell. He was an incredibly highly touted player. I think he still owns some Spark records, and if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to take the time to explain it to you. But was certainly excited to have him. He's a linebacker out of Plano, Texas. Unfortunately, there were some health issues within the family. He moved back to Texas, went to Texas Tech, and I don't think things actually worked out well for him there either. If you remember, his brother also committed to Ohio State, the basketball team, and then transferred out also before ever playing a snap. Again, same family health issues. Cameron Burrows didn't necessarily work out for Ohio State. And then a great running back named Ezekiel Elliott, who you may have heard of. Now, Kyle, refresh my memory. Did Zeke contribute during the national title run?
Maybe a carry or two.
Yeah. Maybe a carry or two through the heart of the South.
Next up here, Dontre Wilson, which was always a nice topic that people brought up about Dontre, to say the least. Definitely contributed at times with Ohio State. Very, very gifted football player. I don't know. Dontre was a very interesting player when he was at Ohio State. Definitely had all the talent there, but I don't know. It just never really lived up to the hype. But he still showed some flashes, just not all the hype that we were.
Yeah, and he was a great college football player. Very, very good college football player. And that's who Dontre Wilson is. And that's okay. And that's fine. He contributed a lot for Ohio State. In retrospect, it's a little bit funny that he, among all of these other players, was like the guy who popped as a freshman, like in the initial camps that everyone was really excited about. But Dontre Wilson certainly contributed greatly to Ohio State during his time in Columbus. Evan Iles came in as an offensive tackle. I think got moved into guard. I don't think ever really contributed for Ohio State. Marcus Baugh started many, many games for Ohio State at tight end. I thought had a very good senior season. He signed on somewhere after the NFL draft. I don't remember where. We wish all the best luck to Marcus Baugh. Trey Johnson did not work out at Ohio State. And then next we have a quarterback from Wichita Falls. Oh my God. I'm going to take a deep breath. A quarterback from Wichita Falls by the name of JT Barrett.
He made a few good plays during his 20 years at Ohio State.
Yeah. JT Barrett, you may have heard of him. After that, Garyon Conley. Yeah, an excellent cornerback.
Michael Hill, defensive tackle.
Who contributed a ton at Ohio State.
Absolutely. Another defensive tackle by the name of Billy Price.
Billy Price, if you don't remember, brought in as a defensive tackle at Ohio State, just got drafted in the NFL. I've already forgotten, Kyle. Was he a first rounder? Second rounder?
He was a first rounder.
Absolutely. First rounder.
He was a first round center, which you don't see that too often. You might see that once every 3 years or something like that, but
there's typically one a year, I think. It's always late. Another topic, another day. Jalen Thompson, James Clark did not necessarily work out at Ohio State. Corey Smith contributed.
Yep, absolutely. Was a big contributor. Defensive tackle Donovan Munger,
who got moved to the offensive line.
Yeah. Yep.
So didn't necessarily contribute a ton at Ohio State. Tyquan Lewis, who again just got drafted in the NFL draft in the second round. We're gonna have to go through and count all the first and second rounders out of this class, Kyle.
Yeah. These last four here, including Tyquan, very interesting that they were quote at the bottom of the list, but look how much they contributed to Ohio State. Taekwon Lewis.
Lewis, barely a 4-star.
Yeah. Now we get three stars here. Chris Worley contributed a lot to Ohio State.
Yeah, started yeah, absolutely.
I believe he got a free agent offer.
He did. I forget where, but yes.
Darren Lee.
Currently killing it with the Jets.
Yep.
And of course, an incredible contributor during the national championship run.
And Tracy Sprinkle,
who started a ton of games at defensive tackle for Ohio State. I mean, I don't necessarily expect a lot from him at the NFL level, but that does not diminish how important he was for Ohio State. And I actually think that had he not been hurt, because he was poised to be the starting defensive tackle, not just this past season, but the season before that, but got hurt. I think Ohio State would have been that much better had he been also healthy during the 2016 season. But yeah, that's that class. And, there are obviously misses in there, but there are misses in every single recruiting class, even at the Ohio State level. I mean, go look at the 2015 class, or really any of the other classes, just to give yourself a realistic expectation of, yeah, there are misses in here. But even at a place at Ohio State, as long as you're shooting over 50%, and we cleared 50% by a lot here. So even if your mark's at 50%, and again, that really doesn't matter, because you could say, well, Ohio State should do better than... Well, no, because the bar for the player is higher. So it doesn't matter if you're Toledo or if you're Ohio State. It doesn't matter if you're Troy or if you're Alabama. The bar is typically about 50%. Again, because the level of talent that you hope a player achieves is higher. It sort of works its way out. The bar is about 50%, and Ohio State shot way over that bar as far as players who, heavily contributed to the team. Let's run through this real quick. Von Bell, 2nd rounder. Joey Bosa, 1st rounder. Eli Apple, 1st rounder. Ezekiel Elliott, 1st rounder. Garyon Conley, 1st rounder. Billy Price, 1st rounder. Taekwon Lewis, 2nd rounder. Darren Lee, 1st rounder. Damn.
The best recruiting class?
I mean, I don't think you can properly judge a recruiting class as far as their time at Ohio State until 5 years out.
Yes.
So, I mean, realistically, I think this is the first time we can properly judge this recruiting class. And I don't think that NFL draft, or, where they're drafted in the NFL draft is necessarily the best way to do that. Because,
how many first rounders did you read off, though?
I'll count it real quick. I was saying it. You should have been counting it. So you keep count. I'm going to go through all the 1st and 2nd rounders again. Von Bell, 2nd round. Joey Bosa, 1st round. Eli Apple, 1st round. Ezekiel Elliott, 1st round. Garyon Conley, 1st round. Billy Price, 1st round. Taekwon Lewis, 2nd round. Darren Lee, 1st round.
6 first rounds, 2 second rounds.
Was it just 2 second rounds?
That's what you just read off.
Okay. I believe you.
Oh, that's that could be dangerous.
But yeah, and again, that's not the best way to necessarily to measure it. Again, because I'm such a big fan of Tracy Sprinkle, who went undrafted, and JT Barrett, who holds all of the Big Ten records, goes undrafted. And so it's not even necessarily the best way. Marcus Baugh contributed greatly to Ohio State, doesn't get drafted. Just because someone isn't, an NFL prospect doesn't mean that they weren't a great college football player. And I think sometimes we get that confused, and we shouldn't. But yeah, I would actually like to spend some time and maybe go over some past recruiting classes, because I know John Cooper, and for all of his fails as an in-game coach, did have some really great recruiting classes, so I'd be interested to go back and look through there. And I don't even know if anyone has records of the recruiting, because, if you go back to the Woody era, I don't even know if I could find those numbers, and I don't even know if they have score, so I would actually let's open this up. How about this? Let's open this up. 2015, again, we decided that we need all of the players to leave before we can make a proper judgment. So don't give me any recruiting classes newer than the 2013 recruiting class. But I want to hear from everyone. Hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, sloopcast@gmail.com. If that's your thing, if you want to send us an email, however you want to do it. Is there a recruiting class? And go back as far as you want. If we have older listeners and you want to tell me about a recruiting class from the 1970s, hit me up. I want to hear it. Educate me. Legitimately educate me. I'm too young to talk about firsthand experience of the Woody era. So if you got numbers for me there, if you got stories for me there, hit me up. I'm all for it. Again, sloopcast@gmail.com, @sloopcast on Twitter, @sloopcast on Facebook. Hit us up. Let me know who you think the best recruiting class of all time is. I'd be real interested to see if anyone can beat the 2013 class. And we have some recruiting classes currently in school who have that potential, but that's still just potential. Anything past 2013 is just potential right now. Because I'm not interested in actual, recruiting numbers. I'm interested in what they did at Ohio State numbers and not necessarily just numbers, but you know what I mean. So yeah, hit us up. I want to know, what do you think is the best recruiting class in not recruiting numbers, but the best recruiting class as far as their contribution at Ohio State of all time?
All right, we have a little bit of time left here. Let's do something out of left field here. Looking into this fall here, Ohio State's schedule here, decided to look up some betting odds here to see where Ohio State stacks up against. We went and looked at a sportsbook betting called BetDSI.
Yeah, betdsi.eu, because sports betting's illegal in this country unless you're in Las Vegas.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah, let's look at all the Big Ten teams here on how they believe each Big Ten team will do in terms of total wins for the regular season.
Okay.
So let's go with our Buckeyes here. They have the over-under at 10.5. 10.5 wins here for Ohio State.
And again, this is just regular season. And the total number of games are 11.
Yes.
So, I mean, of course. But yeah, so basically 1 or 0 losses is the mark. I mean, so those are Ohio State level expectations. The expectation is go undefeated in the regular season.
The big games for Ohio State this year, neutral field for TCU.
Of course.
In September. They go to Happy Valley the last weekend in September. So it's an early Big Ten matchup there. And they go to Sparty and they play home to the team up north, are probably your big games here.
Yeah, and the TCU game is obviously of concern, and Penn State is of concern, and maybe the teams from that other state kind of maybe a little. But yeah, again, the expectation here at 10.5 wins is don't lose.
That's what it is.
And that's why Ohio State fans are off of their rockers. This is why we're all a little off kilter when the expectation, not just internally, but externally, is don't lose a football game. This is why we're all just a little bit crazy. Second up in the Big Ten is Wisconsin, and their over-under is not at 10.5, but just 10.
Just 10.
They can lose a football game.
Yeah. So their best games here, their best out-of-conference, BYU. Come on, Wisconsin. Go with the program.
That's pretty typical for Wisconsin.
Yeah. They do go to Iowa, to Michigan, and to Penn State.
Okay. So, at least some challenge on that schedule. Penn State, speaking of Penn State, they are at 9.5.
They're notable ones. They go to Pitt, home to Ohio State, home to Sparty, and they do go to Michigan and are home to Iowa and home to Wisconsin. So they have a little bit more tougher road in terms of their schedule. They're in-house in the in-conference here. They get some bad, I don't want to say bad luck, but they got some unfortunate draws for this year. But both of them are home though with Iowa and Wisconsin. So look at this towards the middle end of the season here. On October 27th, home to Iowa, then to Michigan, and then back home to Wisconsin, all in back-to-back weeks. Pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Or even if you want to go back to their whole season here, Ohio State, Sparty, then Indiana, then Iowa, then Michigan, then Wisconsin. That's rough. That is a rough middle schedule for Penn State. How are they going to do replacing all the players that they lost to the draft, mainly Saquon Barkley? I don't know. This is going to be a big challenge for Penn State.
Yeah, we'll find out a lot about James Franklin's Penn State as a program this year. All right, next up we have a tie between Michigan State and Michigan at 8.5 games. So just in case anyone's playing at home, according to betdsi.edu, or excuse me, .eu, Michigan is poised to either finish third or fourth in the East this year. As is tradition.
Let's go with the bigger brother of Michigan State. Out of conference, their toughest is to Arizona State, so they get to take on. We'll see how Herm Edwards does here as with their second game. They get to travel to Arizona State for that one. Other games for Sparty.
Before you move on, this whole Herm Edwards at Arizona State thing might be one of my favorite storylines heading into. I think it's a disaster.
It is. I completely
and I kind of can't wait.
Wasn't it? And I might be wrong. Didn't he not know the mascot? The first.
He didn't know some basic stuff about recruiting and scholarship. It's going to be a disaster. And as someone who doesn't have strong emotions for Arizona State one way or the other, I'm fascinated.
Yeah. So their toughest conference games at Penn State, home to Michigan, home to Ohio State, and they go to Lincoln, Nebraska. That might be about right there, that 8.5 here. I'm just looking at overall here. I might take the over on that one, on the early notes, on the early looking at the season here.
Should we be making our bets here?
No.
Ohio State over, Wisconsin over, Penn State under, Michigan State. I have no idea. I don't know what to expect from Michigan State this year. Yeah. I'm gonna pass on Michigan State.
All right, let's go to the little brother here, Michigan. 8.5 again, as Jared mentioned, for the over under. They go to Notre Dame. They have conference games of Nebraska, home to Wisconsin. Ooh, that's a pretty rough road. That's a pretty rough 3 weeks in a row here. 3 games with a bye in between. They home to Wisconsin, at Michigan State, then they have a bye, then home to Penn State, and then they go to Columbus to end the season. That's a pretty rough middle schedule there for the Wolverines.
Under.
I agree.
All right, let's move through the rest of the Big Ten a little more quickly.
A little more here.
Northwestern at 7.5 over under, Kyle.
Under.
I
don't
agree.
like their schedule. Under.
Iowa at 7.5.
I'm going to go with over. I like their schedule this year. They got a pretty good draw. I'm going to go with over.
I agree. Minnesota at 6.
Are you going to row the boat this time?
I'm going to row the if the bar is 6. If the bar is at 6, yeah, I'll row that boat.
Row the boat, and I agree. They got a pretty easy schedule too, as well, relatively. Over.
Nebraska at 5.5.
They may almost get that 5 wins before October. Over.
Well, and here's the thing. I would take the over on this, just based on the possibility that Joey Burrow, and because that number goes up if Joey Burrow transfers to Nebraska. Their quarterback situation is up in the air and scary and terrible right now, which is at least part of the reason I'm sure that 5.5 is the mark. They get a decent quarterback in there. Yep.
They may get close to that 5 before October. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm going over on Nebraska.
Hoosiers, 5.5.
I have no opinion.
I'm just going to go under.
Sure.
We have too many overs here. I'm going with under. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, we need to make this even out eventually.
Purdue, 5.
I'm gonna say over.
I'm going to go with under. They got a pretty tough middle games here too. I'm going to go with under.
Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois. I'm just going to say under because I'm tired of this conversation.
All right. I agree.
Maryland 4.5, Rutgers 4, Illinois 3.5. Under, over? No, under.
If any of them, it would probably be under. But yes, under.
I've lost track, and those words have lost meaning to me now. All right. Anything else Buckeye related, Kyle? Or is it
Buckeye related? No.
All right, so I guess it's time to end the show. That was fun. We had fun. We found a show in May. That's all that matters. With some recruiting talk, getting back into recruiting. That's exciting for me. I hope it's exciting for you. And I guess that's it. So I wanted to advise everyone to find the latest and greatest in the Buckeye universe over at theozone.net. You can also find a lot of cool stuff at sloopcast.com. You can find all the music that we play on the podcast, and other stuff. You can follow us on Twitter, at Sloopcast. You can follow just me on Twitter. I'm not super active because I'm busy in the Sloopcast account, but if you want to follow me anyway, I'm at Jared Ohio. And Kyle, who does a lot of his own independent tweeting, a lot more active than the Jared Ohio account, I can tell you that much. Kyle, where can people follow you on Twitter?
I am at the crazy one, crazy with a K, and one spelled out.
You can also follow us on Apple Music. Yeah, that's right. You can follow us on Apple Music. If you have an Apple Music account, you can check us out on there. We have a lot of cool playlists. We have our Ohio playlist featuring just a mega list of artists from the state of Ohio. Old, new, up-and-coming, old favorites, legends, all sorts of awesome Ohio music in that playlist. There's some genre-based playlist. There is the Songs of the Sloopcast playlist, which features almost all of the songs we have ever played on the podcast, including a lot of great bands from the state of Ohio. The full song versions of a lot of the betting music that we use during the season, a lot of the intro music that we used to, intro and outro music that we used in the past. Just a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff on that song, just on our Apple Music account. So check that out. Check out our Apple Music account. Once again, that is at Sloopcast. You can donate money to the Sloopcast. We are on PayPal. You can find out how else to do that at sloopcast.com/donate. Once again, we put a lot of work into this show in season because we do 2 episodes a week, and during the off season because it takes some time to gather notes and to get everything ready to collect a show during the wasteland period that we are currently in right now. So a lot of time, a lot of effort goes into the Sloopcast, and if you can throw us a few bucks, again, you can find out how at sloopcast.com/donate. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated, just to help us keep this thing going. Again, it's a lot of time. There are, website hosting expenses and podcast hosting expenses. There's a lot of expenses that go into it, and anything you can do to help us out, I would greatly appreciate. Any donation over $10, please be sure to include a shipping address, and I will send you Sloopcast swag. Stickers and pens and not can openers, bottle openers, all sorts of cool stuff. The little not made of Nerf football. All sorts of cool stuff. All sorts of cool stuff. If you send us $10 and a shipping address, we will send you swag.
Who doesn't want some Sloopcast swag?
See, that's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. We still have some pens. We still have some stuff. Oh, can koozies. Yes. Who doesn't like can koozies?
I use my can koozie at work all the time.
And here's the thing: cans are back. Like if we're talking beer, cans are like back in vogue now. Because for a while there, it was like cans are bad. All good beers in bottles. But now the trend is sort of moving back towards cans. I don't know why. There might be a reason, there might not be a reason. I have no clue. But the trend in the microbrew industry appears to be moving back towards cans, and maybe someone can tell me why. I don't care, honestly. The important part is that I have can koozies for you. $10 and a shipping address gets you a Sloopcast swag bag. By the way, it comes in a box, not a bag. But swag and bag rhyme, so deal with it.
Yeah, speaking of cans, one company that's doing it right with the cans right now, if I want to give a shout out to them, Land Grant Brew Company. They are doing their cans.
Are we in the Kyle's corner?
No, but
okay.
As we're speaking of cans, though, Land Grant Brew Company is doing it right with their cans here, whether it's supporting your local soccer team, #SaveTheCrew, or even just unique ones. Like just recently, they the Capital City Half Marathon. They had their American wheat doing their I believe it's called the 13.1 wheat for the half marathon. There doing a lot of cool things with their cans. So yes, going back in full circle here, can koozies, perfect.
And by the way, if anyone from Land Grant is maybe listening, we are accepting sponsorships. And if anyone from any other brewery is listening and you want us to stop saying Land Grant and start talking about your beer instead, we are accepting beer-based sponsorships.
Because beer is liquid bread that's good for you.
This is fact. This is a hardcore fact. All right. Anything in Kyle's Corner, or are we going to count that beer rant as Kyle's Corner?
I do have two things. As we're recording this, as this is already posted, nearly 12,000 degrees be handed out for the spring commencement at Ohio State, marking the largest graduates at Ohio State history. Nearly 12,000 degrees.
Wow.
And not Fahrenheit, Celsius.
Yeah. That's where I thought. that's where I thought you were going at first. Maybe diplomas would have been a better way to phrase it.
There you go. All right. Other thing, we don't really talk about National Basketball Association, but LeBron James. I mean,
James.
What can you say about that? I don't really watch the NBA that much, other than until the playoffs come. But oh boy, LeBron James all over.
Here's the thing. This NBA run for LeBron James, this playoff run for LeBron James, reminds me a lot of like the Delonte West era Cavs, where it was just like, okay, fine, everyone, just get the hell out of my way and let me win this game. He's doing it all by himself. It's insane. It's impressive. And
at the age of 33.
At the age of 33. And he's not going to, I don't see how they win a national title this year. You know what I mean? An NBA title this year. I don't see how he can keep it up unless we
say that every year though. How can he keep it up? And he does.
But
even if they come up short, he doesn't show a lot of slowness.
No, not from that perspective. I don't see how he can beat Houston or Golden State or by himself.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. He can get to the NBA finals by himself. He's done it many, many times. I don't see how he beats the best of the West by himself.
Agreed.
But I hope I'm wrong.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, there was that trend that anytime that Alabama won, LeBron won.
Was it vice versa?
That's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing there was some sort of correlation there. I don't remember.
Anytime that Alabama won, LeBron won.
All right. So is that it for Kyle's Corner, Kyle?
That's all I got here. Gotta save some and spread it out throughout the weeks.
Fair enough. Tonight's ending music will be by a band called the Bummers. They are a Columbus-based band. The name of the song I'll be playing tonight is called Thighs. And they are let's see, according to their Bandcamp page, they call themselves an alt-rock band, which works by me. Once again, they're from Columbus, Ohio. They are called the Bummers, and the name of this song is Thighs. And with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to listen to local music, drink local beer, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is the Bummers.